Prusa produces pristine prints, but perplexing problem persists. Flawed fabrication from factory floor fuels failures, and another A1 anomaly amplifies alarming arson risk. All this and more, PrintFix Friday, episode 189. Let's get into it. Starting off strong, we've got an H2D with a 0.2 millimeter nozzle that has factory defects. Let's take a look. We've basically got a PLA clog that's occurring because of something going on with the manufacturer defect. 0.2 millimeter nozzles from Bambu are relatively new. In fact, I went to buy some spare parts the other day, and lo and behold, I could buy them for the X1 Carbon. Even like dust will cause 0.2 millimeter nozzles to clog. So be careful. While you might think it's a manufacturer defect, it might not be. Trust but verify, right? You will need to make sure that you have some sort of filter on your material. Back in the day, we used to use a piece of sponge or foam from a car wash sponge. You could buy these in like 6 packs from Home Depot. We'll link to some in that description. And you would basically cut a slot into it, put it over the filament, and that would clean the filament. Now, back in the day, we used to put a little oil on it as well before we realized that oiling your filament actually really didn't do anything, but many of us kept that tradition alive for a lot longer than we should have. But if you are going to be using a 0.2 millimeter nozzle, it is absolutely a good idea to put some sort of filter on your material. Make sure that you're blowing any dust off of it when possible, because it might seem like it's a manufacturer defect, but it might not be as well. We can see that the user heated up the nozzle to 350 C in a desperate attempt to unclog it after trying 5 cold pulls, atomic pulls, heat gun heating up, Allen key pushing, everything. And now after about 5 cycles of this, they've given up with a 0.2 nozzle and into the garbage it's going. To be clear, this is dangerous. Don't do this. This is not the machine's fault. The user absolutely put themselves in this scenario. And to some extent, I don't blame them for trying. Like, what are you gonna do? Break it worse? But as we can see, that build plate is also heavily damaged. And of course, all that smoking PLA ain't good for you, and the fire alarm agrees. Yes, they'd set off the fire alarm, according to the user. It is very simple to verify if your nozzles are good when you get them from the factory. Look down the bore. If you can see light, they're probably fine. And if it clogs up relatively instantly, it's time to check. If it's a tiny nozzle, make sure that the filament itself is clean. If it is not a tiny nozzle, let's see if there's any metal shavings. Go ahead and do a cold pull. And if that still doesn't solve it, we've got another underlying issue. It is time to set that aside. Look at go ahead and doing an exchange or a refund and moving on to another hot end. Bambu has really built an ecosystem that I think is kind of unmatched right now. You can get an entire hot end with everything on it for 35 bucks, or I guess that price is going up now. $35 as of filming this video. That is dirt cheap. And full-on hot ends without the thermistor, heater, or fan for like 20 bucks. Nobody else was playing in those kinds of games, right? Even the cheaty +4, a bona fide Bambu clone with a chamber heater, which is always nice. Their nozzles are $20 each, and you can only buy them in 2 packs, at least on Cheaty's website. And they're made of ceramic, at least at the heat breaks, so they continue to fail. By the way, we have some movement on that, and if you do want to participate, you can still reach out to us and help the aftermarket community survive and make these +4s venerable workhorse. Not so much the headache that they've been for some of us so far. But as far as the H2D is concerned, I've got some issues here, but I do think the onus is on the buyer. The buyer needs to verify the products are good before putting them into circulation on their machines. That involves some standard of testing. And when you're dealing with nozzles that are as small as 0.2 millimeters, it would behoove you to have some level of testing for this to verify that these nozzles are good, return any ones that don't hit the numbers that you need, and keep the ones that do function. Personally, I found that, at least on some Bambu nozzles and the entire AMS system on my Bambu X1 Carbon, running some carbon fiber through it worked perfectly fine, but I can pretty much promise you that there is not a single carbon fiber filament out there that will feed properly through a 0.2 millimeter nozzle. so that's out as well. You can't use the acupuncture needle trick because those needles are quite a bit larger, and an Allen key, while that can help to put pressure down, it's not going to clear a clog from the bottom either. So if you guys have any advice on what you could do to try to repair a 0.2 millimeter nozzle, I'd love to know in those comments. But realistically, if it is a speck of dirt, you're dealing with sand, silica, glass, something that will be very difficult to clear out of a hot end. Speaking of difficult to clear, my name is Grant. This is 3D Musketeers and PrintFixFriday, where we help you get your printers back to printing with purpose. And if you do have issues with your 3D printers and you want to get our help, you can do so by tagging us on those social medias. We love to see it when you guys tag us in YouTube videos so we get notified of it and we can see what's actually going on with your machines. But of course, you can always email us as well, youtube@3dmusketeers.com. We'll do our best to help you get up and running. And hey, if you've enjoyed this series, almost 200 episodes deep, make sure to leave a like and get subscribed. And if you want to buy some super sweet merch, you could do so. Links are in that description as well. Next up, a fail from my good friend Ellie, who is still surprised that we're making these videos all these years later.
I'm here for eating those fails, so
Yep.
if I eat them, then they don't exist.
They would exist on the Friday fails thing.
That's true.
If we still did those.
Yep, we are.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
So going on.
I said, haha, I mean, yeah, why not? I'll try it. It'll be a funny video fail. You know, I needed a Friday fail video because you stopped the series. So, oh, never mind. I needed a Friday fail video because I stopped watching Grant's videos on it.
Who says, why make it print surface shaped if it's not a print surface? This is Ellie's Mark IV's that we see going on here, and you see the problem, kids? We're missing the build plate. This further goes on to prove that Prussia's can pretty much print on anything, including their own print bed, without the print bed on it. Ellie right here is printing directly onto the magnetic heater that Prusia uses. And Prusia uses a PCB style heater, where a lot of other brands have gone over to either the oven coil like Bambu uses or like a silicone based heater. And they don't much use these FR4 PCB heaters anymore, but Prusia's used them for years and they work just fine for them. So if it works, why change it? The thing is, the Mark IV's, the Mark IV, the Core 1, they all use a load cell. And the load cell utilizes the nozzle to boop a surface, right? It has to boop the surface to figure out where things are. It doesn't really know the difference if there is a build plate on there or not. Hilariously, this is something that Bambu has solved by putting QR codes on their build plates that the machine reads before the print. But if you're like us and you run aftermarket build plates because, well, aftermarket build plates are just better in some cases, you turn that feature off and send it anyways. Hilariously, this first layer looks really good. I said, well, that is one less print issue I need for next week's PrintFixFriday. She said, well, okay then, Grant. I will say the print looks spectacular and it has a very Ember Prototypes-esque engraving to it. 100% agree. That first layer is pretty much perfect. You know what, Ellie? It's not often you get on this channel for having a non-chocolate related failure. For those that don't know, Ellie owns the company Cocoa Press, and we've interviewed Ellie before. We'll card to one of those interviews if you do want to take a look. I think this is like the first time Ellie has been featured on PrintFixFriday for a non-chocolate related issue. So congratulations. Next up from Doug, aka Dreams Void, says the forever project that is a big print-a-block printer continues to move forward. They're printing in Polymaker filament. And, well, they have entered in this creation for PrintFixFriday, and they did all the work for me. It's the belts, and that makes perfect sense. The belts are a little bit loose, so as the machine is moving, it's skipping teeth, and it's not moving back the way that it should. It's a really easy thing to go back and fix. Make sure your belts are tight. The Print-a-Block printer, it is a printer made of printed parts so that you can 3D print on your 3D printed 3D printer. It's super cool that this is even freaking possible, but yeah, make sure your belts are tensioned correctly and be careful with loading stepper motors like this where it's only supported for one side. That can cause premature wear and failure on the bearings. It's why we recommend to have extra long shaft stepper motors and then support them from the top side as well with a bearing to even out that load on the shaft. Personal preference, this will probably work, and, well, these don't appear to be any crazy expensive motors, so, hey, if it ain't broke, Send it. Next up, broken nozzle and will. This individual was experiencing a pretty serious clog and they decided to change the nozzle. After heating up the nozzle, they tried to turn it, but it wouldn't budge. So they applied more pressure and pop goes the proverbial weasel. Any tips on how to get it unstuck so that they can get back to printing with purpose? And well, unfortunately, you're gonna learn what an easy out is, or a thread removal tool, or a drill bit and a screwdriver. There's many different ways. We prefer the easy out method. We'll link to some in that description down below. They're cheap. They're easy to have in the toolbox. Throw them on your printer shelf. Probably forget about them. Buy them again because you know you have them. You just can't find them, and time is of the essence. And then that's how you end up with like 3 sets of easy outs. But the best thing to do here is to heat the bejesus out of this nozzle, like 270, 280, assuming it is all metal, which I think the Neptune 4 is. Getting easy out in there, turn it out. You can also grab a relatively small screwdriver, try to jam it up into that piece of brass that's still stuck in there and turn that out. That can work as well, but be careful. Different hot ends have different procedures for fixing them. I will say the Neptune 4, a replacement hot end is not very expensive. I would just flat swap the entire hot end, and when you get the new one in, take it apart before you install it, so you learn how it all comes apart. It might not unscrew this way. There might be some grub screws, then the whole nozzle drops out. Nozzles operate differently. They're not all the same, and they don't all loosen and tighten against the printer the same way. I mean, heck, the H2D uses a flap of sorts. It's a very interesting system that the A1 used. I think it's a great feature to have, especially for people that are new to this, so that they don't end up doing this exact thing. However, I think this is a great time to learn about how to remove a broken screw inside of a bore. Easy outs, again, are relatively cheap, and when you need them, you pretty much need them. Outside of having a mill and, you know, really boring and reaming this out properly, you're gonna have a bad time. What do you guys think? Love to know. I feel like printer fires are becoming more ubiquitous, and we asked you guys this a couple of weeks back, and the consensus was that there are more machines out there. If the failure rate is identical, we're going to see more failures. There are a lot of people saying, well, yeah, printers are trying to get down to certain price points, and that means you have to cut certain things, and safety is one of the easiest things to cut when it comes to 3D printers. We have a Bambu Lab A1 melted from the inside. Seriously. So what basically happened is this is a 2-week-old machine that started smelling a little funny, started smoking, and when they pulled it apart, what they saw on the board labeled as an NTC thermistor had completely burned up. But a concern that this user has as well is that their machine serial has a D on it, which indicates that it is of the repaired batch of machines. However, the internals all have the A serial number, which means that they are of, according to the user, we cannot verify this, but this is according to the user, the pre-recall boards inside of the machine. The issue that this user is seeing is not one that is present with those recalled machines. It's a completely different issue. Now, whether this bears mention or not, the individual did buy this machine in Europe. They live in Ukraine, so they had it shipped to Ukraine. For those of you that, for some reason, might be Patrick Star and live under a rock,
Good morning.
things aren't great in Ukraine at the moment. They're in the midst of a all-out war with Russia, and that could mean there are some inconsistencies with power. Now, the thing that blew on their board is not what you might think it is. It is not an NTC thermistor, and in fact, it is a metal oxide varistor, otherwise known as a MOV. MOVs are often used to suppress transient voltage spikes, power surges, and things like that. Your surge protector, if you open it, which you shouldn't do unless you actually know what you're talking about, because you don't do dumb things, and if you do dumb things, you should record them and put them on the internet. They have MOVs in them, because MOVs are basically a big collection of diodes that, well, they slowly burn out as they get used, but that's the point. They're supposed to do that, and they stop these transient voltage spikes. This one, however, got really angry. Now, why this happened, We don't know, but this is what it should look like. You can see that's what it looks like. According to the user, it is not a one-time off failure. They have seen others with similar issues. And in contacting Bambu Lab support, unfortunately, I think they got the Friday afternoon support team who said to buy a new board, buy a new heat bed, install them themselves, and cross the fingers that it doesn't happen again. And that is absolutely the wrong way to handle this. Machine failures will happen, right? We've talked about this. We've seen multiple printer fires in the past few weeks, and we'll card to the big one that people were talking a lot about, the GD+4 that caught fire, or theoretically caught fire. Machines should go through rigorous testing. And if you want to see what rigorously tested machines look like, you can check out our tour of Construct 3D. We'll card to it. Hi.
No.
No. That is what a rigorously tested machine looks like, a machine that is built with multiple safety features involved. But it's also like an extra zero on top of what the A1 costs. In most consumers' cases, they're willing to accept a higher risk of failure and fire risk to get a lower cost machine. Is this on Bambu? I don't know. I will say the customer support side of it is 100% on Bambu, and that needs to be resolved. Being that this printer is only 2 weeks old, yeah, just tell them, take it back or I'm doing a chargeback. This is a Bambu, a printer that should just work out of the box. You pay for the fact that it works out of the box. The solution should not be to spend more money and then do the labor yourself. This machine needs to go back. Quite frankly, I would love to see an investigation on it. Cedric, I assume you're still with Bambu. I would love to work with you to get this machine investigated and to figure out what is actually going on with it. My goal is to determine if there are any further issues or if this is just something that has to do with the power in Ukraine. If it is something that has to do with the power in Ukraine, there are some things that you can do to stop this. One of the best things to do is put it on a good power strip or a pure sine wave or fully isolated battery backup system that will charge a battery, and then that battery is then inverted to your wall power, and then you are fully separated from the grid. And in the event of a brownout, blackout, whatever, you have that battery to run off of so it doesn't kill your prints. We use pure sine wave and fully isolated battery backup systems here on the print farm because I don't want transient voltage spikes or random lightning strikes or God knows what else happens here in Florida to damage our machines. We would rather spend more money on the battery backup side of it and ensure that that's the thing that takes the hit, that is insured to take the hit, and not the machines that aren't designed to take such crazy voltage spikes. If that is the issue, we have obviously some solutions, but if that's not the issue, and this thing does have old recalled parts in it and was re-stickered for some reason on the outside, we definitely have to investigate where it came from and check that inventory of wherever it was bought from. It's easy to point fingers, but it's difficult to do it correctly. It's very easy to say, this is Bambu's fault, and I know that's what a lot of you want me to say here, but I think it's better that we look at an investigative response to this and determine where this fault occurred. The fact that it's the metal oxide varistor that failed tells me that it's a dirty power problem. That's generally why they fail like this. It kind of did its job, but in doing its job, it might have also failed at its job. Traditionally, when they fully fail, they're supposed to break the chain and nothing happens anymore. No power gets through. But it might have been such high voltage that it was arcing across, getting past the reverse voltage threshold of the metal oxide varistor. These are only speculations based on what I would think could happen in this case, and in instances where I've seen issues like this in the past, like building digital and analog Tesla coils. Do you guys want to see Tesla coil builds on the channel? Because I've got some really big PVC pipe. Just saying. How do you feel about this? The A1 has gotten a bad rap for being a fire hazard because, well, it was. Bambu, after yelling at them, eventually got behind it and solved it. But is this a machine that still has those old dangerous boards? And if so, why was it sold under the guise of one that was supposed to be safe? If that isn't what occurred, why is Bambu Support having this person buy all these parts? I would think this is covered under warranty. I firmly believe a machine should be able to deal with basic levels of voltage fluctuation. They use power supplies that work in any country, right? Whether it's 110 or 230, they work. So why can't they deal with slight voltage spikes? That's just how I see it. But I can certainly see Bambu's position of, it's not exactly our fault on this one. This is very much from dirty power. I'm not an expert in this. I'm sure at least one of you are, and I'd love for you to chime in those comments. And if you can provide extra insight to this, please let me know and I will pin your comment, because I want to utilize the comment section of this video as a way to inform other people so that they make better decisions, whether it is to take apart an A1 and verify that the part numbers are all accurate, or to make sure that their power is clean, and then how to check that their power is clean. I'm hoping someone much smarter than me will be able to help out there. And speaking of people that are smarter than me, we got these awesome names listed right next to me at the $5 tier and higher. Thank you for what you all do in making these videos possible, because without you, we wouldn't be making these videos. Again, if you do want to support the efforts that we do here and get access to our super secret Discord, you can join for $10 a month or above, or, you know, you just want to get the behind the scenes content. $5 or higher gets you on this awesome list. And thank you to those people that make this kind of thing a reality. This is a dream that I never knew I had, and we're over 50,000 subscribers. We still need to figure out what we're doing for that. What do you guys want to see for 50K subscriber stream? Because if you made it this far, I feel like you've got some opinions to share. Anyways, that is all I have for you all today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one.